Most people think the world was perfect when it was first created, before sin entered, but Genesis never actually says that. In fact, it says just the opposite. And when you realize what is there, it'll completely change how you see life and your purpose. It starts with understanding what Eden really was, a prototype, a home base. Humans were always meant to venture outside of Eden, even before Adam and Eve were exiled, even before the fall. We imagine that Adam and Eve never left Eden until they were kicked out of the garden. But Genesis 1:28 says, "Fill the earth and subdue it." Why subdue it if it was perfect? What is there to subdue? I think it's a clue. Hebrew scholar Dr. Michael Heiser pointed something out in his book Unseen Realm. It's a huge clue. The word used for good in Genesis is tov, but that's not the Hebrew word for perfect. So even at the end of creation, when God says it's very good, he still doesn't say perfect, which means maybe he left it unfinished on purpose. If the world wasn't perfect, maybe our role was to help improve it. Then Genesis says we're to subdue the earth. The word subdue in Hebrew means to beat down a path, to tame something wild. Well, the world outside Eden wasn't automatically livable. It was raw, unformed, chaotic. God tells Adam and Eve to subdue the earth before they fell. This is before the first sin. So leaving Eden wasn't always a punishment. It was their purpose. This mirrors what God did in the creation story in Genesis 1, when he calmed the chaos of the deep and made it livable. Then he handed that job off to humans. Genesis 1:21 has an interesting clue in it. There's a word here that we translate as sea creatures, but the Hebrew actually says something else. Tanim, sea monster, chaos monsters. Leviathan was a term that the Canaanites were using to personify the dangerous sea, waters of chaos, and yet God still calls them good. Ancient cultures saw the sea as chaos and danger, but here God brings order to it. He's taming it, making it fit for life. And then what he told Adam and Eve was basically like God saying, you go do the same. Bring order to the rest of the world. Make it better. Genesis 1:26 is a passage that often trips people up. It says we were made in God's image and given dominion over the earth. This is a word we don't use very much because it's associated with a king or a ruler. So what's it mean? In ancient context, being made in someone's image meant being their representative, like an ambassador or a stand-in. So apply that to us. If God were physically walking the earth, if he were here, what would he be doing? So if we're his image, his representatives, that means we're meant to do that too. This is an awesome contrast from the other religions that were around at the time. In those stories, the gods got sick of taking care of the earth, so they made humans as their slaves. But here, God made humans to be co-managers, to be kings of the earth. But don't get tripped up by that word dominion. We're not tyrants or slaves. We're trusted caretakers. And our job is to make life better, not just for ourselves, but for other people. This could be as simple as cheering someone up who's hurting, or fixing a broken relationship, or creating beauty. When we do something like pull weeds in a garden, or organize our office, or clean things up so they're not so messy, there's some kind of innate satisfaction from doing something like that, organizing chaos like God did. I think that's because in a small way, we're kind of tapping into our purpose. So then you could think about that in terms of relationships too, right? Chaos is going on around us, lots of people are hurting, it's a really divisive time. Well, maybe part of our purpose is to help bring healing, help people get through life, because it's hard. It's a really harsh world we live in. This would mean anytime you're doing something that helps make sense out of chaos or make life better, well, you're living out your purpose from Genesis 1. Before we get to the final revelation, I made a one-page PDF of my research, so check out the link in the description if you want it. So what is your purpose in life? Genesis paints a pretty clear picture that you're here to reflect God, represent Him, and calm chaos, make the world better for others, to carry Eden out into the wild where we live. You're basically making little glimpses of heaven, little pockets of heaven in a harsh world. When people see that in us, maybe they'll understand who God really is. And maybe they'll realize that they have a purpose too. But if that's what we're made to do, well, what does it mean to have a soul? The original meaning of a soul has actually been lost over time, but the Bible gives us some clues. So watch this video next to find out what it really says about the human soul.